if you are an introvert like me. Welcome to Weekly Tea Time. I'm super excited to see you again this week. Welcome to Sensible Woo. My name is Mary. I'm the founder and CEO. And this week I have a really fun hack for you. If you are an introvert like me, those of us who are introverts know that we need alone time to recharge. Being around people, doing a little bit too much peopling, it really drains us. There's a wonderful book. This is my librarian recommendation from me to you. Yes, I am a real librarian with a master's in information science. So this is one of my top business book recommendations. It's called Quiet by Susan Cain, and you can get it at your local library. You don't even have to order it off Amazon or anything. It's an amazing book. She also has a TED Talk if you want the short version, but I really recommend reading the book or getting it on Audible and listening to it because it will help you figure out where on the spectrum of introversion to extroversion are you. And that can give you a lot of really great data to help you make better choices in how you do things in your business. And I'm going to explain that to you today. So once you figure out where you are on that spectrum of introversion to extroversion, and you know how much peopling you can handle and how recharged or not recharged you get by being around people, you can be more strategic about when and where you choose to be around people. So I fall actually pretty heavily on the introversion scale. I am really good at being on a microphone, being in front of people on Zoom. I actually really like conferences, but after I'm done with them, I need like a week to recharge. I get drained pretty quickly being in a room full of people. And the way that I recharge my batteries is by being alone. So when I need to do things in my business that require me to be very creative, build my systems, work on processes, do customer fulfillment, work with my clients, being in a more quiet environment where I'm not feeling the energy of all the people around me really helps me do that at my highest and fullest expression and potential. However, it's really easy for an introvert like myself to end up just kind of hanging out in like this cave or a little bubble. And what we want to do is make sure that when it comes to expressing who we are and what we do for people, that we find ways to incorporate the outside world, because after a while you can kind of pull a little bit too far inward. And I feel like our audiences really pick up on that. And it has the exact opposite effect of what we want them to have. So when I need to, say, write a sales page or work on a new welcome sequence or build out anything that is meant to be consumed by the public, these YouTube videos, a little bit notwithstanding, because I need a slightly quieter environment in order to record quietly. But when I need to do something like a sales page, I will take my laptop and I will go work outside the home. I will do some remote working in an inspiring location. So, someplace that looks beautiful, feels good to me. It needs to have good power. So, you have to kind of scout out these places and really think about where you're going. But make sure that there are good power outlets where you can camp out, that it's okay for you to sit there and work for a little while. If you do, make sure you tip your servers really, really well because they're letting you hang out in that space. Order good food, good drink. So budget it in. Make sure that you budget that in. And what this does is, by being out in the world as an introvert, it allows you to be there in a limited period of time for a very specific purpose. And when you are creating your sales messaging, your writing and your language will start to shift and change because you're out amongst the people. You're not just in your little bat cave. And that makes such a huge difference when it comes to reaching people on a level in which you need to meet them at least halfway in that conversation. There's something about the energetic output of doing the activity in this way that genuinely helps. Now, I also love following Guy Kawasaki's writing tip, which is to take a laptop that's got a lot of great battery life. So my MacBook Pro always has pretty good battery life. It'll last like about 8 hours if I'm just doing typing and stuff. If I'm doing anything that's a little more taxing on the system, I can use up the battery faster. But what I like to do is I like to go, and he will go completely without a power cord. Like he'll take a MacBook Air and he's just typing in a document all day long. And as soon as the battery's going, make sure that you save your work and then you close the lid and you go home. I like to bring a power cord because people call me Mary Poppins because my bag has so much in it. I could probably do like small surgery in there. It's like its own convenience store. It has everything you need. So I like having an extra power cord and it's always with me. But I do like the concept of paying attention to how much battery life do I have left? How long have I really been sitting here? Because there does come a point where you're not really getting a return on just sitting there and doing more work for longer. So you kind of have this constraint. It's a creative constraint. In art school, one of my undergraduate degrees is in art, in studio art. And one of my teachers gave us this great framework at the beginning in one of our foundation courses. One of the students raised her hand and asked a very fair question. And they're like, "Why do you give us all these rules? You tell us we can't do this and we can't do that. And you have to do it like this and you have to do it like that." And she said, "Because when you leave school and you go out in the world and you're creating art, there's always going to be a constraint. You're going to have a budgetary constraint or a time constraint or an environmental constraint, or some supply is going to be limited and you couldn't get everything you exactly wanted." And the same thing happens in our businesses too. No launch is going to be perfect. You're not going to have all the time you want. You're not going to have all the resources you want. You're not going to have, the smooth flow that you envisioned in your brain. What you have to do is deal with the real world. And by taking your laptop out into the real world with real world constraints, even if the first constraint is simply the length of your battery time on your laptop, makes a huge difference. It puts you in a space of solving problems. It puts you in a space of being proactive, and it comes across in the thing that you're creating, especially if you are putting together a sales page, which is one of the most public facing things you can do in your business. Something that can also be really interesting, and I'm going to be experimenting, so you're going to watch me do this here on this channel, is taking things like recording YouTube videos out into the world. A lot of us like to make home studios. I do too. I'm currently just using my usual corner office that you see me in for all of the webinars and events that we do online. But I'm actually creating a studio corner out in another room in my home. And that has a very clear purpose. I'm in the Pacific Northwest, so when it's raining, I mean, obviously, I'm not gonna go record out in the rain, although maybe, who knows? But there are also options for being a little bit more organic about it. It lets people really see you and feel you, and I think that's really important. As an introvert, I know that that is important because it's really easy to crawl into my turtle shell when I'm just feeling too much of the energy around me. And when I'm peopling just a little too hard, a little too often, a little too much, sometimes I need a break. But you can do this in limited quantities for a really great purpose for your business. And I bet you'll notice that your sales page is received a little bit better. So you can actually test that by measuring your results. So remember to track your metrics. And I hope that helped you. For all my fellow introverts, I know I attract quite a few of you. So I hope that helped you. And for all my extroverts in the room, I hope it makes you think about how and when you utilize your external spaces versus your internal spaces. Because for you, it might be the opposite. You might need to learn how to recognize when you need to be quiet and alone and get comfortable with that so that you can really hear your higher guidance, which is honestly pretty tough to do when we're, in sort of like a party situation all the time. But there are a lot of really great remote working situations now that we are through, at least for now, it seems, the real big heavy part of our COVID era. It's a lot easier to find inspiring locations, and it could be a local co-working space, but I would also encourage you to find someplace that makes you feel what you want your customers to feel. I'm a real bougie person, so I like places that have big high ceilings and big windows and gorgeous light and fancy cocktails and delicious small plates of food. And I live in a foodie town, so it's really easy to go find those places. For you, it might be a beautifully laid out picnic in a park. It might be a co-working spot with like real go-getters, so you can get that feeling, that energy in your system, and buy yourself a day pass and go to town, go to work until your battery runs out. So, with that, I will see you next week. Go forth, go out into the world, and then you can come back inside and you can recharge your batteries as an introvert. All right, I'll see you next week. Bye.